The Team Never Quit podcast is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Make a plan to do away with high-interest credit card debt by transferring your balance to a Navy Federal credit card. With a low intro APR and no balance transfer fees, you can pick the right card to help you save more. Check out NavyFederal.org for more information. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. It's a brand new year. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys have followed us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, most importantly, YouTube, dropping new episodes every single week. We've got a really cool episode today for you guys. Marcus and Melanie are in the studio today, cutting this one. It's going to be a blast. But before we get to today's interview, let's jump to a Patreon question coming from Dave. This is going to be a good one for you guys. He says, why do Special Force operators always seem to sport a full beard?
Instead of a half beard?
Yeah. Instead of a half beard.
Or instead of a goatee.
Well, you were saying that the new guys coming out are starting to all rock the little
mustache.
The
mustache.
Yeah,
So,
bringing it back.
Pro photography stashes.
Yeah.
So it's a generational thing. So each generation of team guys had their own deal when they were in combat. We're only allowed to wear them when we're away from the flagpole.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the further away from the flagpole you are, the more. So then it just becomes a competition because it used to be sideburns with us. But then when our wars kicked off, we got the first crew that got the beard going. Then it was just on.
Yeah.
And we got the cool badges that said we were allowed to relax our grooming standards. It's just a thing, right? And since we did the beards, the other guys after the younger generation are doing the stashes.
Yeah.
I mean, full on stashes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He had one.
I had a pretty
Overseas,
pretty
man,
sick
the good
one.
porn stash, man,
Yeah.
just freaking rocking it.
Yeah.
You know, anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
Right,
So,
correct. Actually, with us,
I'm
absolutely.
gonna grow a beard. I'm gonna grow a big one.
Man,
Yeah.
however, when we had been operating for a while, I just kind of dropped in, so the guys had been there, and this one guy, he had an awesome, I mean, under the eyelids beard, kind of all the way down to the chest. And I remember he went and shaved, and he'd come back and that day, and we were
Probably
standing there,
didn't
we're sitting there,
recognize
had no idea who he was. He kind of looked, as we were talking, giving him the sideways thing. He's like, "You don't even recognize me, do you?" I'm like, "No, it's me." And I was
We
like,
just did
"Oh."
that. When he just got his trimmed up, and he came home, and we all just looked at him.
Oh
We're
yeah.
like,
None of them liked it. Yeah.
I was like, you look like a baby.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's grown
Sort
back
of.
in though.
Yeah,
Yeah, he can grow a
2021
sick beard, but
fresh.
that stash was amazing. They were comparing you to the guy from the show, The Gallaghers.
Shameless. Frank
Yeah, they did
Gallagher,
a side by side. He looked just like
Oh
him.
my God.
You guys,
I don't know how I
Andrew,
feel
you'll
about
have to
that,
pull
but
up the
yeah.
picture.
I will.
Yeah, pull up the picture. So Donut Operator did a side by side of it, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, it's uncanny.
it
he
is
looks
pretty-
just like Frank Gallagher."
That is hilarious.
But that's how he was on deployment. But that was some of the younger guys that were doing that, and you were rocking the full stash.
Yeah, I think everybody rocked a stash at deployment for
This
sure.
past one.
Yeah.
And it also kind of depends on what country you're in, because it's a sign of
Respect.
over there for the men to have beards. So when we do a lot of village ops and out in those areas, that's part of it.
Yeah, we do a lot of meetups with the sheikhs and everything. They don't respect.
And
it
not
if you
one
don't
guy
have-
can have it and the other one couldn't. That's not how we work. Yeah. Because what if I got to go with you?
It's
You
a
know, I'm
wolf
going to have to
pack.
have a beard.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and the guys look sexy with beards.
Thank you. There's
That's
that
true.
too. I told
Yeah.
you. There's
I
a
mean,
cool guy
Amen,
thinking about it.
sister. There is that.
You feel sexier with the beard.
We do, right?
Hey, come on, lumberjack.
Do the hat thing with the tattoos.
Yeah.
Lumberjack.
That's right.
What movie? What movie is it?
Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Best movie.
That is so funny.
Dave, thanks so much for the Patreon question. Hey guys, if you want to get your Patreon question in, make sure to join us. Patreon.com/Team Never Quit. We got some exclusive merch. We do live streams just for your Patreon members. It's a lot of fun. But now it's time to get to our guests. We've got some great guests in store. Navy SEAL Chief Eddie Gallagher and his wife Andrea. Eddie is a highly decorated combat veteran with 9 deployments to war zones in Africa, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And his wife Andrea has been his biggest advocate and has maintained that her husband is innocent and made sure the world knew his side of the story. She spearheaded the Free Eddie campaign on Twitter and had her friends help. Welcome to the show, Eddie and Andrea.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you for having us.
Thank
It's
you
an
for
honor to be
coming.
here.
Finally got you here.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Welcome to Valhalla, man.
This place is amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys have been on a heck of a journey the last year plus, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Our
still
2020
going.
started a while ago.
Yeah.
That's right.
When did it all
When
start?
did that roll in? It was the end of 19, right?
No, this
No,
was
2017
was
at
the deployment.
Yeah, so at the end of that deployment is sort of when everything was kicked off.
Very undercurrent.
Yeah, and we kept it to ourselves. You know, we because it was so ridiculous. We're like, this is just going to go away, or an adult's going to step in the room and do something, but it just didn't happen. And from there, it just kept escalating to where it got to.
Yeah. My gosh.
Everything kind of escalated in those 17 kicked up a lot of stuff.
17.
Right?
Yeah,
17
yeah.
Like our own little Armageddon.
Yeah, pretty much.
For sure. So yeah, it was
crazy.
dealing for like 3 years, and then
he just retired just over a year ago because it was November
last December.
November
1st.
Or December 2019. So it was just like, it's crazy to think we've only been out of the military just over a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And the transition itself
oh
is
my gosh,
so hard to go
Yes.
through.
I guess if you're going to get out, that's the way to do it, bro.
That's what I was saying. Yeah,
Caught
last
up in a
night.
med board or something else, but I mean, just do it. Boy, as far as team guys go, that was the hardest.
It's like the selection process to get out.
Right.
It's like
who can do it the hardest?
Yeah.
Man, some of us.
Gosh. So what I want to focus on, because y'all have told your story to a lot of different podcasts, and you're sharing your story in a book coming out soon.
Yep.
And the name of it is
The Man in the Arena.
Man in the Arena. I pre-ordered mine. So
Wonderful. Thank you for
I'm
doing
pre-ordering
that.
right now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Under the table.
But what I think for our podcast today, what we'd like to focus on is your fight during. I don't want to go too deep into like what actually happened. Everybody knows what you were imprisoned without even being convicted.
Charged,
Or charged.
Charged.
Yeah, you had no charge, but you were imprisoned, which I think is crazy that they can do that.
Yeah.
But through that time, how many months was that? That was...
it was 9 months of confinement total.
Yeah. And through that, Andrea, I mean, you were fighting tooth and nail through that whole time to share the story, to get it out there. Like, not only everybody gather around and pray for my husband, but get him out. Like, this is not fair. Can you share a little bit of like your insight on from the day they took him and like how all of that went down?
Yeah. So the day they took him was actually September 11th, 2018. And
Is that
they took
right?
him,
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, injury to insult.
It was done on purpose.
Really?
Yeah. Most of what they did was very targeted and kind of to terrorize our family. So just to give the context, the deployment itself was 2017. So he was gone roughly, I think, February to September-ish, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then when he came back, I mean, the backstory that really few people realize, because when everything was happening behind the scenes, none of this was ever about war crimes. It was so ridiculous. It was like, I mean, as the wives, we know that team guys are more like high school cheerleaders as the gossip train goes than what people picture. And so for me, I just seeing the kind of escalation of allegations and then like the targeting of him, we really just didn't think anything was going to come of it. And we just were laughing it off because every deployment, at the end of deployment, the guys are ready to punch each other in the face. And like old school guys, that's what you would do. Now it's the new school and that's not permissible. So I think it was more passive aggressive. And when they came back and everything started to ramp up was beginning of 2018, NCIS got involved. So by April of 2018, NCIS had picked up what was, you know, kind of this developing case that started about accusations of him being too aggressive and he was mean to them and he called them out and called them cowards. He did little petty things. They were saying like, oh, he stole from care packages or whatever. All of this was just...
How do you do that?
I still don't know.
Yeah, we still don't know.
It's a care package.
Actually, to give a shout out, it was Badass Boxes. Andrea from Badass Boxes. We had coordinated the boxes to come.
I put together the box. So I was ordering care packages
Community
for
care
the whole
packages.
platoon. That would come like 15 packages at a time, and it was Badass Boxes was amazing.
Yeah.
And so when it would come, it would just be like, open them up and take whatever you want. And they just took that and they were like, oh, I mean, I still don't know how they came up with this accusation.
Not only am I going to take this,
Yeah, I'm
I'm going to come into your room and take whatever I want out of there. That's how that works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about. Even to complain about that is stifling.
Yeah.
Back this, I want to know, how'd y'all meet?
Oh, we're gonna go way back then.
Yeah.
I mean, to go through something like y'all went through like together.
Yeah, we can.
It's actually
Yeah, we
pretty
can start at the
good. It's a pretty
beginning.
good story. Yeah. I mean, we were best friends in high school. I think it was around 16, 17. We ended up. I snuck out of the house one night, and she had also snuck out. We met up through mutual friends, and we're up to no good, and just became best friends from there. Like hung out all the time.
This is in Indiana.
Indiana,
Yes.
yeah, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then we both went to a year of, attempted a year of IPFW.
Community college
community
together.
college, and I was like, this isn't for me. So that's when I joined the Navy, and she went down to Florida.
I went to fashion design school,
yeah.
so I left. We were both basically just trying to get out of our little town. So I went to fashion design school in Florida. He joined the military, and we kind of parted ways for quite a while, over a decade, or just about a decade. Yeah.
Was it that long?
Yeah. Because we met when we were 16, 17,
Yeah,
and then we got back together when he had just...
I just finished SOCM, and so I was driving back from North Carolina to San Diego to check into Team 1. Stopped off in Fort Wayne, and just out of the blue, like, called her mom just to see how she was doing, because I was like, I was thinking about her, and she was
single mom with two kids. Who wouldn't want?
But yeah, we ended up linking back up, and that was it. We both knew, like, we were supposed to be together, and we made it work.
I had no idea what a Navy SEAL was.
No.
I had no idea.
And
that's what everyone says.
Yeah.
Like, we laugh when people are like, you knew what you were getting into. I'm like,
No,
I literally didn't. I did not know anything about the military. I did not know what Navy SEALs were.
Yeah.
And he
Her
was
parents-
pretty tight-lipped.
Your parents thought I worked with
SEALs.
actual, like,
Yeah, the
dolphins.
SEALs.
Literal SEALs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was like, so on a ship and, like, SEAls?
No, she was like,
my-
what's he doing in Iraq? There's no dolphins or seals
Oh
there.
my god.
Trying to find them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, we did a long
so
distance
funny.
relationship for
Yeah.
the first platoon, which was pretty
That
crazy.
was to Iraq, right?
Yeah. And then ended up moving her and the kids out after that. And it's
So we ended up in San Diego by 2008, and that's what started. So his career with SEAL Team 1 was where we kind of entered at that point. And then he stayed with SEAL Team 1 for a while. That was a great experience. That's our crew. Like, as you guys probably know, like, the people that you start with, you really develop such a tight bond. So we're still best friends with all of those
A
couples.
lot of guys won't leave their fraternity house to go to another one.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yep.
stay there. And especially back when we came in, it was different. It was right before State 21, so the platoons were jocked up. Guys would just go over by themselves with the leader of the LT, right?
Yeah.
And the chief. And then that whole switch took place. But even in the teams, as small as we are, then you have the cliques and crews and families, and it's just the way it is.
So
Yeah.
did you get married in 2008?
So we were married in 2007.
Okay.
And then we did our very first deployment apart. And then we fought to relocate the kids from Indiana to San Diego. And that's when we moved. We actually were in the same house. The village at NTC is where we moved into. And we were there for about 11 years.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we raised the children there. We had Ryan there. So yeah, that's where our family kind of came up in the teams and in the SEAL community. So it was a big learning curve for me personally.
yeah.
Especially at 1. Oh, that's a big deal. 1 and 2, they're funny about it.
That's right.
No fun
Stalingrad
Yeah, no fun 1. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love being at 1. That's definitely my
Everybody
favorite.
does.
Yeah.
All JT and all the guys, the boss on them when they were
Yep.
when we all got separated. The guys that went to 1, they were like, it's not that bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
They all do have their own unique personalities,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
like we
Team
definitely
7 was completely different than
Yeah.
1 for sure.
Club 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, no fun 1, busting 2. You get pour 4, right? You just go all the way down with it. Each one of them. Club 5 was the best. Volleyball.
They have all these names.
Oh yeah.
They do.
They're
It
the
is
rock
unique,
stars.
though.
I thought that
They
was
are.
a joke until I checked it. I was like, oh yeah, 5's gonna be right where I need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
very true.
After
So
Red Wing too.
Yeah, well, I needed a break. And then they sent us to Ramadi, right? Yeah, what a break that was.
Yeah.
But no, I loved it there.
Oh my gosh.
I love it there.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
good times.
So so you've been married since 2007,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and then so fast forward back to
Yep.
the horrors of 2018.
He pretty much deployed back to back to back to back. He never stopped. He went for a little brief stint at Bud's, but that was when it was like a skeleton crew and it was not a break. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was literally like a freight train. The whole career was just nonstop. He loved what he did. I'm sure like you, Marcus, just like he was obsessed with it. And I was just along for the ride and raising the kids and kind of keeping down the home front. And so, yeah, this last deployment that we went on in 2017 was really kind of the precipice of like he was going to be doing his Chiefs platoon. And we had really hit our stride. I mean, it was a huge learning curve. I cannot overstate that enough for me, for us to learn how to be a supportive spouse and knowing that his first love was the SEAL teams. There was no, there was no, buts about that. And it was just really, for me, I relied tremendously on my faith and God to sustain me. And so that culmination just grew for me more and more and more, just trusting that God was going to protect him and keep him safe. And he really, he had successfully kind of evaded picking up rank in order to just stay operational.
Yes.
No, it really is. I mean, and he can talk more about that. I could not understand it. His family, which is all officers, was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But he was very adamant. He wanted to stay operational. He stayed E6 crew forever.
Yeah. Successfully for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve. I mean, it was a learning curve for both of us, as far as, I didn't tell her what a SEAL was. She pretty much came out to San Diego and sort of figured it out on the fly.
Threw me in the deep end.
I was also figuring out on the fly. I was a new guy. And so, there was a lot of like bumps in the road through that whole time. I mean, coming back from combat deployments or just deployments in general, doing the whole reintegration thing.
Yeah.
I think the more deployments we got along, the more we got used to it, or we like she said, we found our stride. But it was, I mean, I wouldn't give it back for anything. I think it just made, honestly, I think all of that we went through just in the career alone, and all the ups and downs, losing friends, just built us up to what we had to deal with the last 2 years. I mean, I think that was part of the resilience that came with what she did, and same with my kids. They went through, I can't even imagine what they went through the past 2 years and what was going on, but they remained like strong, like steadfast the whole time, just, not
that's
breaking down.
She was.
She was the rock, which she has always been. I mean, that's through the whole career. I mean, I was like, we're in and out. We're pretty much ghost parents.
And sometimes a hot mess.
Every once in a while.
Which point?
Own it.
You knew that. Yeah, I mean, come on. You know we are.
Not only are
from
you
the
a
sexy
mom
hot
of
mess.
That's right,
3, and your husband's deploying, you were running a business too.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a pretty big business with your Better Babes.
Yeah, Better Business Babes. So I was doing, and I just relaunched it, but I was doing, branding and marketing and kind of development of small businesses. And so the interesting thing is, so when all of this hit, I mean, again, like we had said, like we both had such an emphasis like on our faith, and what was getting us through was that. I mean, I don't know how people in that community and the SEAL teams make it through without it, because it's very tumultuous. So by the time he had come back from that deployment, again, we had really hit our stride. I felt like I was just operating on the home front. I was, like you said, I was like feeling like, okay, like he's doing what he loves to do. I had my own identity, which I think successful team wives inevitably do not put themselves as a trident wearer. They develop their own identity. They develop their own way of how are they going to show up in the world. And so I was doing that. He was doing his thing. He had just picked up chief. He was killing it. He was voted #1 chief. I can say this. He won't say that. But he was. It was #1 chief, and the platoon he had brought up from the last performing to the top performing, and they had gotten the billet to Mosul.
Let's take a second to thank our sponsors over at High Key. It's 2021. It's a brand new year. That means you're focusing on a healthier version of yourself. Maybe that's just a continuation from last year. Whatever it is, if you're looking for healthy snacks that aren't going to taste like garbage, and you're looking for those low-carb, gluten-free, keto, vegan snacks that are not going to be tasteless like cardboard, then you guys should really check out High Key's products. They sent us a huge supply of snacks. So thank you, Heike, for that, because I'm a snacker, all right? I like snacks. My favorite is the caramel clusters, or the snickerdoodle cookies are pretty good. Whatever you choose from them, it's incredible. They've got no added sugar, no grains, no gluten, which means no apologies. Heike snacks are so low in carbs and sugar that they're actually keto friendly. So if you're doing that low carb keto diet, they're great snacks for you. Whether you decide to dig into a bag of their #1 selling chocolate chip mini cookies or pour a bowl of their protein cereal, they have 100% money back guarantee, so you can try out any of their products risk-free. Their snacks are delivered right to your door. You can get them, you can snack on them, and get ready to crush your 2021 goals. They're going to hook you guys up with 15% off your order. All you guys need to do is visit hikey.com/TNQP. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. To get 15% off your order, go ahead and head over to hikey.com/TNQP. That's hikey.com/TNQP. Y'all make sure to check them out.
It was huge for him, and they had cleared Mosul in half the time. I mean, we were ending that deployment on a huge high note, and by this time we're like seasoned, crusty, team people. We weren't even 40. Mm-hmm. And so we really, we ended that deployment. The reintegration was so seamless. I mean, I think we were both just in a really good place, which is the irony of like all of this being birthed, this total chaos ball birthed out of this, was that it couldn't have been more polar to like what we personally as a family were experiencing. So we basically, we trusted the teams, we trusted the community. We knew like, okay, someone's going to figure this out. All of these allegations will be sorted out, as petty as they were, but it was just like a growing rumor mill that continued to kind of like go out of control. So as you guys know, a lot of these stories are shared over, multiple beers at Danny's or McPee's. And it's like, this is ludicrous, nothing's going to happen. And it did. It spiraled out of control to the point in 2018. When NCIS got involved in April, I basically had started to plan to raid our home, and they did raid our home in June of 2018. So the family home that we lived at for the 11 years was where they raided, and they had locked Eddie up that morning. This is prior to them taking him and throwing him in jail. So that's another confusing piece. Mm-hmm. People confuse the timeline. So the deployment was 2017. The home raid itself was in 2018 of June. And we were not there. There was no adults present. My son, Trevin, had just turned 18. 2018.
Was it
June 20th?
June 20th, yeah.
2018. And so
June 28th.
To him, June 28th is always a horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a lot of parallels within
mostly.
timelines. Yeah. But you can tell your side of the story as far as they took you.
Yeah, I mean, I came back from that deployment and I kept work at work like I tried to. I didn't really tell her too much about the little petty drama that was going on in the platoon because it was nothing out of the norm. It was like, okay, whatever, this will dissipate at some point. But then when it started escalating more at work, and I was sort of like, I didn't know what to do, So I came back and was talking to her about it. And we both were just like, you know what, this is dumb. We'll take the high road. I had a meeting with the platoon. It's like get everything out in the open. Nothing pertinent was said during that. It was the same thing. You took care, but power bars from care packages, blah blah blah. We ended it with like, let's just move on. Let's crush this drama. This isn't going to end up well for anybody. But they decided to keep escalating it. And I was hearing things around the team. Guys were coming up to me like, dude, these guys are talking trash or saying this and this. Again, I paid it no mind. I was sort of like, I had already got over to TradeEd, was beginning to do my SCA there, and I was moving on with my career, just like I had told them. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to give you guys a second thought. Like, I'm going on with my own career. But then I got pulled out of SAUC and got told, like, hey, we're pulling you out. You're no longer going to work here. And they're saying that you committed war crimes, and they have you on video doing it. And when they pulled me out and said that, I told them straight up, like, no.
Which is bullshit, right? I mean,
I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, this isn't true. Mm-hmm. The command decided to go forward with it anyways. They were like, we're still going to pull you out and we'll see where this goes. As soon as that happened, I knew you could feel it, like I was being shunned across the board. I got pulled out, put in office for about a month and a half with no job, and then from there they shifted me over to supply. When that happened, I was like, all right, I get what's going on here. This is where they send either the shitbirds of the community or whatever. So obviously I was like, this isn't good. So I'd come home, and it was pretty rough for me at that time. I was frustrated, and I was leaning on her a lot coming back, and just didn't know what to do. But it wasn't until our house got raided in June that was sort of like the tipping point of, okay, this is real. Like, this is way beyond what we thought. And at that point, I mean, no leadership, nobody from the command would even talk to me or us.
Yeah, no one
sort of
helped
just
us.
let us out, to hang, and they're like, hey, whatever happens to you. We decided at that point we're going to retire, because I had no plans of retiring. I mean, I was probably going to push it to 30. Started putting in for retirement, prepping to get out, going through all like went through the Honor Foundation and everything else for transition. And we also bought a house in Florida during that time, because that's where we were going to retire. We moved down, right, it was like a week after the house got raided.
Yeah, it was a week later we
moved.
were relocating.
I moved down to Florida, and then I came back to San Diego, and I was just going to geo-batch until I got out. At that point, I went to Intrepid Spear, which is like a branch off of NICO,
it's a great program.
to get treated for all the injuries over the past 20 years. Typical, because my med record was super thin. And it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks into theirs when they came on September 11th and put me in handcuffs and threw me in prison, and was for nobody could tell me why.
No charges.
From
charges.
Intrepid, they took you out of
Yeah, took him out of a TBI
during,
clinic.
Meditation.
You cannot make this stuff
No,
up.
it was. I mean, we laugh about it now, obviously, but yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, they locked me up. No, like anything explained to me. And they threw me in solitary right off the bat. I got one 5-minute phone call, which I called a lawyer that we sort of had on standby. Told him what happened, and that was it. He's like, "There's no bail system. The only way you can get out is they'll have a hearing. It's called an IRO, initial review hearing, where they deem whether you're dangerous enough to keep in prison, or we'll let you out into your trial." Went to the IRO, and they used every qualification that I've been to, every school I've been to.
Against them.
You're a SEAL, you're dangerous, you could escape anywhere. And then the kicker was a neighbor of ours, who was one of the guys in my platoon, had wrote a letter saying that I was stalking him when I would walk my French bulldogs past his house, and that him and his wife were scared for their lives, and that was enough for them to be like, "You're not leaving." And
Same guy said that?
Yeah.
They got him to sign off on that letter, which during the trial we proved that they basically, it was all
that letter was
coordinated.
written.
It was
the
written
day
after
that I was put in prison. So they called him up and like, "Hey, if you write this letter, he'll stay in there."
So just to explain to people, with the UCMJ, I mean, it's like a third world country, basically. You cannot throw people in jail without charges. But in the UCMJ, so that's Uniform Code of Military Justice, which I've learned way more than I ever wanted to know about, it is possible. So, but you do have to have parameters. So that was basically enabling one of those parameters to be filled, that if someone would say that he is a threat to them, that then they had what they needed to basically hold him in jail, and they did that.
And that continued on too.
Yeah.
I mean, even after the trial, after I was, found innocent of everything, they wouldn't let me. I was banned from all the SEAL bases still, and the reason they gave me was the guys that accused me or took the stand against me were now even more scared of me, that I was out and about, and so they were like, "Well, you can't go on because they work on those bases. We don't want to scare them, so you have to, go to this other base where nobody is." It was ridiculous, but either way.
And to say a Navy SEAL is scared of another Navy SEAL,
well,
we didn't even know he was involved.
No, like we would see this guy, and like I'd wave at him, like I'd go for a run or see him, do the head nod to him and his wife, not knowing the whole time they were. I mean, he volunteered for NCIS to help them, so he was staking our house out. writing notes like, oh, he works out at this time, he goes here at this time. I mean, everything, and gave it to NCIS. And I mean, yeah, it was pretty nuts just to know like that was going on and sort of, see that guy. And we're always, we weren't like super friendly with him, but we, say hi or whatever. I mean,
I can't go into how many times your story correlates with the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
I mean, to a T. Like somebody was writing it out while you were having to go through it. Now you're through it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear about. Now what?
Yeah.
What we got? What's up now? Because y'all came out of there like a shotgun.
But also, I mean, while he's being pulled out of meditation from a clinic, at your house, Ryan's being pulled out, and your daughter are at the house, right? Was Trevin
so
there?
It was Trevin and Ryan, and that was in June. So they had done multiple things to our family, but the home raid was in June of 2018. When he was in the clinic for the TBI, that was in September. So that was on September 11th. So that was the second time that they had kind of taken him. But that time, they took him to jail. And that's really when I came out with what was going on. Because we had not said anything for the most part.
Can you explain that day? Because I think a lot of people don't even know that part.
Yeah. So basically on that day, obviously September 11th is such a somber day, especially for people in the military community. And I had woken up and I was listening to a podcast, and I shared this when I was on with Marcus last time and my brother-in-law, Sean, that it was about Joseph and how Joseph is just like thrown in jail by his brothers. So that's another correlation that I've made previously. And within that story, I just was getting a lot of, I felt like God was just sharing that with me for a reason. So when he called that day, I had shared with him that, and he basically, was having a rough day. It was like he was going to these classes and he was trying to get things out of it, but it was like really hard for him, I think, because the transition itself is so difficult, and then he's trying to deal with all of these things that he hasn't had a chance to deal with. So he always hears me out, but at the same time I think he was kind of like, okay babe. So I was sharing that story with him, and then we kind of hung up. We were going to connect later in the day. He was busy with classes, and he was, I think, heading later that day to the meditation class. I didn't end up hearing from him at all until I got the call from the lawyer, and the lawyer had indicated that they had come, they had taken Eddie, and they had taken him to jail. And I didn't know it was possible. Like, again, like the home raid, I'm like, I did not know this is possible. And like the level of like terrorizing that was and being inflicted on our family, I mean, it just shocked me to the core. And I thought, no one's coming to help us. Like, this has spiraled out of control. We were the only ones that knew the full truth as far as where it started, where it was, and like where it was going was completely off the rails. And so I waited probably a couple days because we were just feeling out, what does this look like? He's in jail. He's in solitary. I cannot communicate with him. He's supposed to have this hearing. And I kept telling myself, everything is going to get figured out. Like, this hearing will prove. And I can remember him calling me the day of the IRO hearing. So it was supposed to be 72 hours, I think, after they took you. It was a little more than that. And I can just remember one of our friends calling and was like, yeah, he's not getting out. And then later that day, Eddie called me, and you could just hear it in his voice. He was just rocked to the core. Like, the stuff they said about him, the prosecution, this was the first time he had any interaction with them. And he was just like, the truth doesn't matter. The stuff they said about me is insane. And that's when I think I really just, something inside of me shifted. I was like, oh, no way. They're not doing this. They're not doing this to him after all he gave and all these years. And so I wrote an email along with my brother-in-law, and it was called To the Real Brotherhood. And it was just basically a coming out letter about everything that had happened from 2017 on. And kind of that was the beginning of me speaking out.
Well, and like, marriage is hard enough.
Yes.
Marriage in the teens is even harder. Marriage in the transition is even harder. And then dealing with this, most women, I feel like, would just throw in the towel because it's too stressful. Even if she does love her husband or whatever, I feel like the amount of stress that would cause a marriage to break. But instead I feel like turned into a lioness and just fought. And that was one of the things that really hit me through that whole time period, was just how you stuck by his side no matter what they were saying in the news, what people were saying on social media. I mean, you were like, no, this is the truth. This is, the truth will prevail no matter what happens. And I found that so admirable, how you fought for him and ignored the stresses that it was taking on you and your family. And you really didn't even let your kids experience the stress. You kept that household tight. And I don't know, I find that very powerful.
I appreciate that. It's for me, and I mean, I said this the last time with the podcast with Marcus, I truly, and that's why I bring up the story of Joseph, I truly feel that God called us to this. I feel like he let Eddie experience this. He let us go through this for a purpose, and that purpose is way bigger than us. And I think that this, as you guys have had such an effect through the trauma that Marcus went through, you have blessed countless millions of people. And that's ultimately what the story of Joseph is. Like, because of what his brothers did to him, he was put in a place of power as the second in command over Egypt that he would have never been in if he would have not gone through the heartache of the betrayal and all of that. And so we've definitely used that story as kind of like, a guiding light for us during that time. And I never once believed that he was going to go away. I knew that God was going to use it for a purpose. I knew that I had to stay strong. I knew that it wasn't just about us. It was about everyone else in that community. If they can do this to us, they can do this to anyone. I mean, these guys are heroes. And the fact that they could Eddie has a phrase he's kind of coined, like, these guys sign up and they know they're expendable. Like, Marcus was willing to give his life. Eddie was willing to give his life. And many of their friends have. And it's like, they are not disposable. What the government and NCIS and the prosecution and the command and hierarchy allowed to happen, because they were more concerned about protecting an institution than they were protecting one of their warfighters that served 20 years. It is the biggest black eye, but we're going to use it to make hopefully an impact on a larger scale to bring change to not only the UCMJ, but the way that we treat our service members. You cannot dispose of these people. And as you've said, as we've talked a lot about the transition with these guys. I mean, they're a handful.
Y'all are.
2 handfuls.
Well, and I'm married.
Hey, man, y'all don't need us in here, man. You want to go?
I'm just enjoying
We're
this.
having a blast. It's like,
I'm married into transition.
Yeah.
I didn't experience the deployments and all of that. So I married him while he was, and I think for Marcus, he got out in a time period where all of his friends were still in. So he didn't really have anybody to lean on that was, getting out at the same time or anything, where I feel like now there's a bunch of guys going through transition and you kind of connect and do that together. Marcus didn't have anybody. He was kind of just thrown to the wolves and then thrown into the public eye, which was also not what he ever intended.
Team guys dying all the time. All of our guys still dying a lot.
Yeah.
So
I meet him, and then
she goes from
within
regular
a
life
year,
straight to
extortion happened, and I mean, so much after that. It's crazy.
It really is
Drinking
crazy.
from a fire hose right there.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Our situation's unique. All team guys are team guys. And you just say team guys are bitches. I was like, well, that's how I know they're a team guy. That's what we do with each other kind of deal. But it's hard to step in those individual, when they pull us away from the guys and we have to go down our own hellhole kind of deal. I mean, by yourself is terrible.
Yeah.
Because they pull them away from us and then we have them. Right. That's kind of the lesson. Like, give praise to false glowing objects, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that you...
Well, the best thing about transition for the guys I have found is to be around other guys. So, I mean, that's why our house is a revolving door. Really, anybody that needs to come over comes over, because it's good for Marcus, it's good for the guys.
They do need each other. They're
do.
very communal.
It's like
you guys are
battery
pack animals.
pack.
Yeah.
You have to recharge.
Yeah.
Even if they never served together, or even if they didn't know each other in the teams, like they're all alike.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about that a lot, because you and I obviously, as you just alluded to, I reached out to you after when he was thrown in jail. I compare it to, like, you know, him being put on a deserted island. He had no way to know what was going on. And this mounting, like, Free Eddie campaign was turning into, like, an avalanche. And I was like, I don't know if you understand, but, like, now you are a known person.
I did not understand. No.
Yeah, he didn't understand. And that's why I had reached out to you. And I think we had found a commonality in there, because Marcus didn't ask for that. He didn't ask for that. He didn't want that. I had to, out of necessity, because they were trying to railroad us silently, I had to make his story known to save him and to save our family. And so it has had unintended consequences for him.
Yeah.
This episode of the podcast is brought to us by Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive daily nutritional beverage you will ever try. And really, that's been a focus for me going into this new year, is making conscious decisions to be healthier. The problem is, sometimes it's difficult to maintain those effective habits when we have busy schedules, we're getting bad sleep, we're staying up late, we're not getting as much exercise as we need, or maybe we're just highly stressed out from whatever we're doing in our lives, whether it's job, school, parenting. That is where Athletic Greens helps. Their daily all-in-one superfood powder is your nutritional essential. It is by far the easiest and most delicious nutritional habit that you can add to your health routine today and empower you to take ownership of your health. The great thing about their product is all it takes is one scoop of Athletic Greens, and that's going to contain 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and much more that are all going to work together to fill that nutritional gap in your diet. It'll help you increase energy, focus. It's going to aid with digestion. It's going to support a healthy immune system, all without the need of taking multiple products. And for me, that's the coolest part. It's already hard enough to just make good habits sometimes. But then on top of it, to add 20 different pills or 20 different supplements to just support everything that you need, whether it's a probiotic or a multivitamin, that could just be a pain in the butt just to try to figure that out. And for me, I found it really hard to remember to take those things every day. And now I don't have to worry about that, because all I have to do is mix that scoop of Athletic Greens into a bottle of water. I shake it up in the mornings, I chug it down before my breakfast, and I'm getting all of those things I need. Another great thing is it is lifestyle friendly, which means whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, and it's not going to compromise on taste. And right now, Athletic Greens is just as focused on supporting your immune system during the winter months and this new year than we are. They're offering our audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D. And right now more than ever, you probably need some vitamin D. Many people are vitamin D deficient. They're also going to hook you guys up with 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit our link. You'll basically never have to buy vitamin D again. Whether you're looking for peak performance or better health, covering your bases with Athletic Greens makes investing in your energy, immunity, and gut health each day simple, tasty, and efficient. Simply visit our link, athleticgreens.com/TNQ. Join the health experts, athletes, Marcus, Melanie, Morgan, all of us here at the studio who are making the daily commitment to a healthy life every day. Visit our link, athleticgreens.com/TNQ. Get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. Their product is great. You guys make sure to go check them out.
But she's the true hero of the story. Like, I say that all the time, but I mean, it's the truth. Like, I mean, I just had to sit in prison for 9 months and not maintain my sanity, which we had talked about yesterday, which team guys are meant to thrive in chaos or misery. Like, you can put us in any place and we'll find a way to adapt and take over somehow. So I was dealing with that when I was in there, and it was not like smooth sailing, but I mean, I was finding ways to survive, doing little things there to win one over or whatever. But she was, I still can't fathom the amount of work and everything that she put into it. I mean, I always knew, that's why I married her. I knew she was just this strong, beautiful woman that didn't take any shit from anybody. And I've always known how strong-headed she is and how smart she is. But then this situation sort of let the world know, like who she is, and she killed it. It's amazing. and that's her and my little brother too.
Yeah,
you know,
Sean.
He's another one.
That's what we were joking about last night with the movie Coming to America. Guys were talking about, well, how do you? But in the wedding scene, it's reversed for us now. It's like, what do you guys like to do? Whatever my wife likes to do.
Whatever my life. Yeah. Where do you want to eat? Wherever you want to eat.
So while you're
after you go through something like that with them, like when they take our ability to fight away.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what they did.
Like that's when they beat us down and we can't get back up and do what we do. Then
well, it's a very humbling experience, and that's where the parallels of like, if you look at what they did to him when they raided our home, they put him away in a room, they locked him away, and they went after me and our children, and they took our boys out at gunpoint and into the streets in their underwear. I mean, I can remember only really ever seeing him like this probably 2 to 3 times in my life. It was after losing Aaron, Vaughn, and extortion. Like, just seeing his eyes wide open. You can't even see anything other than the pupil. And it was just like his eyes were wide open and just tears, because that night I was just like in another level of a planet. And he was like, do you understand that these people were not qualified to do this? And if one of them sneezed, if one of them tripped, if one of them hit another person, that in this course of holding machine guns and assault rifles at our children, they could have blown our kids' brains across the room. And I just sat there because I am naive. I don't know what it's like to do, house runs and CQC and taking down a house. And what they did to us was like laying siege to our house. They had 20, 25 people fully kitted up, like ready to go to war with assault rifles and battering rams, and took my babies out in the street in their underwear. Thank God my daughter was not there, because she'd still be in therapy. I mean, the boys are just, boys are just able to be, I don't know, our boys are still so resilient, but to think of that, it's
trauma.
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, and
to think of how,
for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's the first thing. When we moved to Florida the next week, I think what hit home was I took Ryan to the pool, was hanging out with him, and he asked me seriously, like, are people with guns going to come get me here? And, like, that's a worry of his, which that right there, it set me off inside. I was like, dude, I cannot believe, that they had to deal with this.
Yeah. And then taking him and throwing him in jail.
Here, somebody had said something about, they said something and it sounded like NCIS, but that's not what they said. And he said, that's who held me at gunpoint, and that's who took my dad. And I was just bawled my eyes out. I'm like, he is so innocent, and he should have, I just don't understand.
Well, you take the hate out of that.
Yeah. I just don't understand how
that's what we tell them.
do
Them
that
guys
to
are
the
good
kids.
guys.
Yeah.
That was us. They had no idea what's going on. They just have to go do that, and that's the protocol. So when you explain, it's like, they weren't here to kill you. They were here to actually protect you. And when things are going down, and when we get in I understand that. Yeah, we get pissed at because that happens too. But look behind that. I'm just saying, because we have been there. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's there are a certain handful that task that out to guys like us, and when we're on the receiving end of it, it's obviously we feel that way, and it'd be tough to explain that. But if you explain it like, hey, look, they weren't.
And that's the mindset I have about this whole thing. Whether it's dealing with NCIS or even the command, the teams. Because I've been asked a million times, like, what are your thoughts on the teams now, or like, would you let your son join? And I have the same thought about everything. I'm like, I'm not going to place blame on a whole group of people, like the teams or NCIS. Like, there are bad actors, involved in that whole thing. And should they be held accountable? They should. But we're not going to blanket statement, a whole group just because a few bad people.
I mean, that timeline too, when you came through there, was a silly season.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some stuff. Think about it. If all that other stuff wasn't going on, that probably wouldn't have transpired.
Well, and the war had been going on for so long, and it's like, when do these guys get a break? But like Eddie, like, they don't want a break. They wanted to keep going, and so it's just, a disaster waiting to happen, because
Yeah.
it's so much, even though you don't think of it as trauma, it is so much trauma over and over and over and over.
Right. Yeah, and there's definitely a lot to be said too about, like, you know, the guys that started serving. I mean, I really want to do a focused case study around the guys that started serving before 9/11 or through 9/11, because they are absolutely so unique. And I don't think we're going to really grasp the fullness of that until way further out, about what did that do to the guys and the families and the kids. But, you know, our situation was definitely unique as far as what we had gone through, and I think that, you know, we're going to continue to try to use it as a positive tool to, you know, bring hopefully positive changes to the community and to the way that they treat people. But to me, it goes back to the Constitution. Like, if we're just abandoning constitutional rights, that he has a right to a fair trial, even as a service member. And I know you give up your constitutional rights per se when you join the military, and we really didn't realize that. Like, he was giving his whole self, and he was fine to do that. But throughout the course of it, it's like, you have to stand by, you know, innocence until proven guilty, and you have a right to a fair trial. And due process is a part of that, which was completely obliterated in our case. And, you know, yeah, it was pretty eye-opening for us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there something that you thought of every day that got you through that 9 months?
Yeah, her.
I mean,
her and the kids. I mean, that's it. And I talk to God every day. You know, I literally would have conversations with him in my jail cell. But that's what keeps you going, you know, because it's very easy, like, when you're sitting there, to go down a dark hole if you want to, and you can feel yourself starting to do it, like, you know, getting angry or whatever, or you're just like, the situation sucks. But you know, I would talk to God, and he would fill me with, you know, positive energy and just, you know, my faith in him. But then also I would think of the kids. I mean, I would, luckily eventually I was able to have a picture of the kids and her, so I had it, like, taped on the wall. And, you know, it's sort of just like being on a deployment. You know, you're like, that's what I'm coming home.
Routine it down, right?
Yeah, like,
but without your guys, I mean, that's like a
well,
whole
that's
other
the
thing.
yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, I made two buddies, and so there was another SEAL in there with me who.
And we're always in pairs, right?
Yep, he was waiting, so he knew I was coming. He was in there probably a week before me, and I ended up going to general population with him, and I actually had put him through buds, and we just sort of paired up, and we, you know, helped each other out as far as dealing with all the frustrations that go along with being in the brig. And then I made another friend, Jason Thompson, who was in there. He was just, I think he was a cook, or I think in the Navy, and was in there for some whatever BS, but he was really cool guy. So, you know, I paired up with them, and that helps you get through too. You know, you don't want to sit there alone the whole time.
Was there a certain verse or anything that you stuck by?
Oh yeah, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. That was every night. Every night I would just say that.
Literally trials.
I
said literally ended up being trials.
Yeah, so
a trial.
I said that one every night. You know, and when I prayed, and it's you know, God is good. It's, he literally.
We really kept. I mean, that was our anchor during all of it, and like, that's what everyone that attributes whatever I did or whatever he went through, and they give. I'm like, we were completely built for this, so God used all of my natural talents and abilities, and I am fiercely loyal. And so the fact that what they did to him, I mean, I think it just, you know, I thank God that he had equipped me previously to know, and I could see the situation, but it was completely his strength that got us through. He was really relying on God in jail, and I was clearly relying on God to just keep me afloat and keep me. And every day I would just wake up and I would fight day and night, just to get his story out and to let people know what was happening. And I mean, you know, it's definitely by the grace of God. There were so many things that happened that in our own strength would have never occurred were it not for even people like you guys just reaching out and being like, you have a place here. I mean, we had been completely disenfranchised from everybody. We were untouchable on so many levels because it was just like people did not want to be near us. And it was eye-opening.
Yeah. I mean, that meant the world to me. Like when she told me you guys had her and the kids out, I mean...
You know how it is in the beginning when the word started spreading with us, we stand back so we're not standing in the way. And then when everyone would ask me something, I said, well, I don't know anything. That's the biggest thing you can say. Teach us that in our trident boards. If you know the answer, say, I'll get back to you on that when I find something. So we would just kind of wait and let that thing unfold. And
well, I can't tell you. I mean, I know we talked about it yesterday, and I mean, you gave me the same response. You're like, of course. Why? Like why wouldn't I? Well, during that time, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, well, of course, we're brothers. It's like that wasn't happening a lot. So just to have that was like this ray of like light. Like, oh my gosh, thank God, And you be able to look. You were out here looking after my kids. Taking them fishing and everything. That seriously.
Actually caught the biggest fish.
Right, the biggest fish that's ever.
And I even said
the fishtail.
All right, let's throw one right over there because I think we're gonna get a big one. Just trying to fire him up, and he did. I mean, he drug that sucker out of there. And
Irish luck.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he still talks about that.
I was like, you little turd, get back here and throw it back because we wanted to take it up to the house. It's like, no, I've been trying to catch up sucker ever since, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, do you have a question?
What advice would you give to a wife or a spouse when something like this happens, where it's not just public scrutiny, but it is also... It's almost like David and Goliath, and like, what is the first step? Like, what do you do when you feel like, there's nobody who's usually there that we reach out to,
right,
to when you're in a situation like that, because it does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, what do you do? Like, what's the first thing you would give to another wife or spouse? As to what to do.
I feel like a lot of women would give up, and I mean this.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about the SEAL community, but there's like right now, law enforcement is so under like extreme examination, and Border Patrol, and all of these different variations of our security. How do you, as a wife, protect your husband, support your husband, and pull him through it when it's above you and completely out of control for you?
I mean, again, I totally relied on God to just empower me, to give me the direction and the wisdom that I needed. And so, I mean, I do have natural giftings that lended to me being outspoken. But as far as in our community, like you don't talk. You don't talk about his job. You don't talk about him. You don't post pictures of him. You don't talk about it. So it was, for me, I just can't emphasize enough how much it was a defining moment, where the realization that everything had been pulled out from under us, and that the community that we knew and everything that we called home was no longer available for us to turn to. I had to develop that strength within myself, and God enabled me to do that, but it's also, he's completely owned by the government. They locked him away and they threw him in a cell so he could not have a voice. And I think that many of our veterans and many of our police and first responders and Border Patrol, these men and women that are at the front lines, obviously, hopefully, God willing, are supported by a spouse that is able to, when it hits the fan, that you have got to speak up on behalf of these people. And because he couldn't even speak out against what was happening, really, even if he was, let's say, out of jail, he really wouldn't have had the ability to do that. But because I'm married to him, I am not technically owned by the government. I have the ability to exercise my rights as an American and say, constitutionally, what you're doing to him is a complete farce. Like, you cannot treat him like this. You have to allow him the right to defend himself. He was being restricted from legal counsel. He was being restricted from any availability to all of the services that we as humans and Americans constitutionally have. And so I think that we learned through my brother-in-law and I just really, carving this path was like my brother-in-law had known a lot about government, and he was on Capitol Hill for 10 years working for different people in Congress. He used that skill set, and I used my skill set, and I put the story out in the way that I did, and he put it out in the way that he did. And it was really just something that we carved this path that now we have a nonprofit because we identified that, you know, as you've said, so many people are going through stuff like this. It's not just service members. It is our police. It's our first responders. We've got to defend these people. So before he even exited the military, we started the Pipe Hitter Foundation. That's our nonprofit, because what we realized was people do not intrinsically a lot of times have the ability to navigate these situations on their own. So I would say, you know, look for reliable resources, look for people that are knowledgeable and that have insights. But I feel like we're in a whole new era of like the people are being attacked that have been really fighting for this country.
This episode of the podcast is brought to us by NordVPN. Everything's happening on the internet now. Banking, medical records, school. 2020 showed us how important the internet was. Everything we did had to translate to that. Everything we were doing had to go digital. And that being said, if you're on the internet, whether it's for work or personal, you guys need to be protected. A VPN service is going to provide you with a secure and private access to the internet. Basically, it's like an encrypted tunnel for online traffic to flow, which nobody's going to be able to see through. That means they're not going to be able to get their hands on your internet data. And trust me, the resident TNQ nerd, if you're on the internet, especially when using public Wi-Fi, whether you're accessing personal or work accounts on the road, or maybe you just want to keep your browsing history to yourself, NordVPN is the best VPN for peace of mind. They've got all your devices covered: Windows, Mac, Linux. They've even got applications for iOS, Android, the Android TV. And best of all, with one NordVPN account, you can secure up to 6 devices at the same time. It can be any of those types of devices, which is great. And NordVPN has over 5,500 servers in 59 countries, which means you're going to enjoy the fastest VPN experiencing, which means you're going to not have to worry about that buzzkill of streaming and downloading files with slow internet connections. NordVPN is a service that offers a fast connections with no limit on bandwidth, so you're going to get that blazing fast, stable connection everywhere you are. They've got 24/7 customer support, a 30-day money-back guarantee, which means what better way to protect your data than with a team who's going to back it all up and support you. That's the way to go. NordVPN has got a great New Year special for you guys. Every purchase of a 2-year NordVPN plan is going to get you 1 additional month free. All you guys have to do is visit nordvpn.com/TNQ. Use our coupon TNQ at checkout. That's NordVPN, NordVPN/TNQ. Be sure to use our code TNQ for that extra month free with the purchase of a 2-year plan. NordVPN.com/TNQ. Code is TNQ. Remember, if you want to protect your data while online, you should be using a VPN. Make sure you guys check them out.
So that's why the nonprofit is what it is for that help and guidance that people might need that now find themselves in these situations. So whether you're a spouse or a service member or someone, the foundation was created to help you navigate these types of situations. We did not have that, but we're thankful that we're able to be a part of offering that to people now that might find themselves in these types of situations, sadly.
Oh my gosh. So I know that both of y'all relied on your faith through this whole thing. At any point, did you get so deep in the hole that you got mad at God, or you started to lose faith?
I personally didn't, but obviously this had a wider effect on a lot of people that loved us, loved Eddie, loved me. And I mean, I don't know if I'd say mad at God, but there's so much confusion and anxiety, and just it was terrifying for a lot of people around us.
I never once got mad at him, or I just don't. I've never thought like that, to where it's like, oh, you're doing this. Like, stuff is happening for a reason. And it's either my doing, like, did I make this happen, or, is this happening for some other purpose? And that's just the attitude that, what my first couple months in there, I sat there and was blaming myself for everything. Like, I was like, I must have done something, So obviously, and we're taught that in the SEAL teams, like, hey, if this is happening, own it. Like, this is happening for a reason. So I went through, from the beginning of when I took that platoon, okay, what did I do to make them go to this level? And I couldn't find any excuse really. I was like, nothing they did validated what was going on, or nothing I did to them or what they said I did would validate, even if some of their lies were true. I'm like, that still doesn't, it's not a reason to put me away for life and,
Right.
Without parole. But I did have low moments in there, and that's going to happen. I definitely was frustrated. There was a lot of, throughout the course of being locked up and everything she was going, doing, and my brother was doing, it was like an emotional roller coaster. We'd have like a high point one week where, oh, you're going to get out, or this, so-and-so's going to help, and then 2 days later, like, oh, no, never mind, it's not happening.
And then something else would happen, and it would double down. It was crazy.
It got to a point where there were so many highs and lows. When the president had tweeted, let him out, I was told, I think by one of my lawyers, like, hey, he's going to do it. And my attitude was like, what, like, whatever, we'll see, because I just didn't want to let myself
Get excited.
that expectation.
And the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought there were nights I was laying down and they would tell me like, oh, it's coming at 10 o'clock to get you out of here. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll be ready, like dressed. And then, then you're yelling at the clock. Like, well, then the day would go by. It's just, you get to the point where like, you know what, I'll just, when it goes down, right?
Exactly.
To, like, keep your mind humble. And
the way I like sort of, it's, when you're going through Hell Week and you do the med checks and they put you in the dry camis for about 2 minutes. I hated. I was like, I don't want the dry camis. Just leave me miserable until it's over. Like, I want it, and that's my mindset when I was in there. I was like, just let me like be in my space here until we get to trial. Like, I was so done with the highs and lows.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster.
It was, but like I said, I had, I talked to her on the phone. She was my rock the whole time. She either smack me back into space or talk me down to if I was feeling low or whatever. And I had a great group of friends that visited me every weekend. The Aconiacs. They came religiously.
Andy and Kelsey of like Half Face.
Andy and Kelsey Arbito from Half Face. They were there every weekend, and there was weekends where I didn't want to see them. And I was like, I don't want visitation. Because I was in a bad headspace, but they'd come and I'd be forced to go see them, and it would bring me out of it.
Yeah.
So all of that attributed to like me being able to get through, being in there.
So our theme is never quit. So that can mean anything with your story. That's your marriage. That's your faith. That's proving innocence. What do you believe your never quit story is?
Okay. There's so many never quit stories wrapped up in this, what happened, but I think it's just the attitude that I've had since I joined the military, which is, it's just the grit that you have to like get through everything. Everything I've done, I've failed, and had to come back into like buds. I got rolled there, free fall, I got rolled, 18 Delta, I got rolled. But it's taking those little failures and learning from them, and then I'd always come back and crush it, the next time, like do better than most of the class, just because it was my second time doing it. But that's just how my brain works. Sometimes I got to screw things up. But taking that same attitude into this, it's, we went through all this nightmare, and just like, we saw behind a curtain, just like she said, that we didn't know existed, and we're like, we're not going to play the victim role here. I think playing the victim role it's like a disease that's come across America, like everything, and I'm a victim, because this happened to me. It's like, no, we're not going to be the victims. Now we're going to fight back, and we're going to help other people that are put in our situations. And that's we're still going with it. And I think that's just a never quit attitude. We could have easily been done with this and sort of just slunk back into the shadows and been like, oh, we don't want to deal with this anymore. But instead we're going full force into it, and we're going to, fight for active duty, law enforcement, first responders, and stand up for what's right. And that's due process, which a lot of people aren't getting nowadays. And, we're going to sit there and we're going to support their families, raise money for their legal fees. And then also, our marriage has been a never quit thing our whole career as well. It's been, like I talked about before, it's ups and downs of, and it's just like I think every married couple in the teams, or I imagine in law enforcement or anywhere else goes through it. You know, you do a dangerous job. There's a lot of stress that comes with it. Coming back from either deployments or late night shifts, you know, you're going to have issues, you know, with decompressing, and it's on both the husband and wife to deal with those. And we've been doing that for the past 12 years, and every struggle that we've gone through has only made us stronger and closer together. And I mean, obviously this whole nightmare definitely has solidified us into one. I think I mean, I feel like we're as strong as we've ever been. And we're just going to keep fighting for everybody else.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You don't get battle weekend, you get battle hardened.
That's right.
Team guys make awesome victims, because we either fight with everything, and that's funny. Like, people are like, I got a hard day. This is, I was like, we went to Hell Week, right?
Yeah.
Remember how freaking hard that was?
Yeah.
We volunteered for every second of that.
That's right.
But when you tell us when we have to stand down, because we can take a beating. That's how we're made.
We want to take a beating.
Yeah, we're made for that.
Yeah.
Right? Just to sit there, and then what happens? They beat on us till they get tired. And even when we do get tired is when we turn on. You know, that's how they train us completely different than everybody else. They wear us out, and then they put something in our hands to learn how to operate it. So when the enemy wears us down, they think it's a good thing. It's not.
Yeah.
But we'll just kind of sit there and take it until somebody steps in and helps out in that one regard. Then they can't mess with y'all. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
That's right.
There's a difference between
They found out.
like fighting and then like fighting
out.
back. Because when you come back at them, then they have to deal with that as opposed to just laying everything on you.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it's hard.
Yeah.
You don't, especially when they take everything away.
Yeah.
I mean, they removed you completely out of there, threw you in the Chateau d'If, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They did.
I mean, you got a letter from somebody saying you did this, couldn't even ask about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just follows it all the way down up to the point to where you're sitting here now watching y'all.
Yeah.
It's that strength, that bond that people look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you can go through it and have what you've had to go through, and then these still stand strong, that's how you form those environments that people look to, like, all right.
Well, I do. I think it's part, like, the never quit thing is part of the American spirit. I mean, you really look at, like, I think that's why the American public and the people resonated so much with our story, was because they saw the love, they saw the loyalty, they saw the commitment to truth and integrity in the system. And, you know, when we went to write the book, that's why we both have chapters in the book.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Truebill, one of our great supporters of the show. The craziest thing about being able to shop online and just sign up with something with as simple as a click of a mouse is that sometimes we start to forget how many subscription services we are really paying for each month. They say that 80% of people have subscriptions that they've forgotten about. And I know this statistic is true because I'm definitely part of that 80%. There are things that I've signed up for that are small, those items that are under $10, $20 a month, that when they come out of your bank, you just don't pay attention to it. You don't see it. It's not like whenever a $500 bill comes out and you're like, oh my God, where'd all my money go? You just don't notice them. If you're trying to save money and take control of your finances, but you're still using those Excel spreadsheets, scatter Post-it notes to do it, then it's probably time to come into the digital age and find a new tool that's going to help you out. The new year really is a perfect time to be taking stock of your finances. And I've actually been using Truebill for quite a while now. And that's because they are the smartest app that I've ever used to manage my finances. They allow you to review your recurring charges in one place. They help you and support you by canceling subscriptions directly through the app. They just helped me out with that a couple weeks ago. I had a subscription that I'd been trying to cancel for the last couple years, couldn't figure out how to do it. Within 2 weeks, they had canceled it for me. And now I'm bringing all that money back into the bank. They've got features for creating monthly budgets, evaluating your savings goals. They can even help you with automating that. They've got push notifications to let you know when you're getting over your budget or maybe you're getting close. They even work with many of the nation's top providers to help you negotiate and lower your bills, including AT&T, T-Mobile, Spectrum. If you're looking to feel better about your finances, then you really need to be checking out Truebill. People think they're spending around $80 a month on subscriptions, but in all reality, they're probably spending closer to $200 a month. That really adds up. So if you're looking to get that money back into the bank, save some money, get a grip of your finances, then you need to check out Truebill. They've saved users more than $50 million. They've got over 1 million users. If you don't believe me, If you don't want to trust my word for it, you can go to their website, truebill.com, read all of their incredible reviews. The nice thing about Truebill, the thing I think is the coolest, is that the average person saves $720 a year by using their service. That's a lot of money. So if you're looking to get that money back in your bank, if you're trying to get a better overview of your finances, you want to just get a hold of that for the new year, then get started today by using Truebill. You can get signed up by going over to truebill.com/TNQ. Take control of your finances, start saving. All you have to do is visit truebill.com/TNQ. That's truebill.com/TNQ.
It's predominantly like a he said, she said type of story where they really did try to take us and tear us apart. I mean, and they physically threw him away. They put me, they put us away from each other. And it's just like the team guys, like they get their strength from each other. It's the same for us. But I feel like we both really turned to God in that time to continue to grow in a way that we did become so bonded. Like it is like you're in that crucible, you're in the fire together, and you really do have, I think for us, it's such a unique bond that we've always shared and people have always commented on it. And then it's like now what we have been through, and to stand, side by side and face all of this together, and to walk out of that courtroom, and like even the cover on our book, it's us walking out of the courtroom, and it's just like my head is held high. He has been vindicated. What we said was happening the whole time was proven in a court of law. It's like, this is why we fought. Because if we did not fight, if we would have quit, they would have taken him out for the remainder of his life, thrown him in jail, destroyed me, destroyed my children, and potentially the fabric of that community, because it really did rock the community in a way that, it's still, I think, recovering from. But we definitely have to hold our service members and all of the people that protect us in a higher standard, and at least afford them the ability, the right to defend themselves and to have fair trials, even if something does happen, even if accusations are leveled. These are just foundational principles that I think as a country we have to not quit on that. And that's what I would say to any listener, like, never quit is something that no matter what it looks like, and 2020 I know is difficult for everybody, but I hope that people can look at our story, and when they get the book, they will see like we didn't quit. We came out on the other side better, and it is possible for anyone in this country to do the same. But you do have to stand up and fight sometimes. You have to use your voice, your abilities, your skills, and you're going to be put in hard situations. It's the way of the world right now. But I do think it's a real refining moment in our country that I hope people will look at us and look at you guys and say, all things are possible. And it's by the grace of God that we're here today. But we're going to keep trying to help other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love y'all's story.
I do hope that maybe people that even that don't agree with us, don't agree with whatever, they can pick up this book and look at it and say, man, this is what I thought back in 2018, 2019, all of this before me. If they want to get in the wormhole and really do the digging, what you should be doing is you can make your own decision. You can not listen to a narrative, and you can choose on your own. And that's what I think, I hope a lot will come out of our story, just education for people to understand. Like, if you believed in the first clickbait headline you read, then you believe he's a war criminal.
Right.
And, if by the end of it, your mind was changed because you started to hear different stories. But for much of the first 6 months, there was not one story written about him that didn't demonize or villainize him with zero information.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, my name still doesn't come up in an article that says war criminal next to it every time.
We've actually experienced that on a smaller scale, just bashing, for different things. I don't even want to get into it and give it validity, but it stressed me. To him, he was like, it's fake news.
Pay no mind.
Don't worry about it.
I don't even listen to it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to stand there in front of me and be like, somebody saying something in a completely different town. I don't. It's not hearing from it. That doesn't even exist in my world.
Right.
It rocked me though, because I knew that it wasn't true, and I wanted to prove truth so bad, but all of our counsel and everybody was like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's
You got to pick your
going
battles.
the news cycle is whatever, 3 days. It's going to be gone. Nobody's ever going to remember it again. And it didn't cause any good or bad. Like, it was just to terrorize our reputation. And it hurt so bad, but I had to just let it go. And I mean, especially because he didn't care about it.
Well, that makes you, that's a source of strength too. Like,
Yeah.
it makes you stronger, being able to just let stuff like that
Yeah.
go. I mean, we went through it as well. I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh my gosh.
losing my mind the first couple months I was
Yeah.
out. Like, why are they still writing all this
Right.
stuff? But after a while, I'm like, dude, I don't, like, who cares?
Right.
You know, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
If that's...
It is hurtful, though. I mean, to see... And then you see, like, all the comments on it and people, like, jumping on that train. Like, oh, I can't believe they did that. And, ugh.
That's all those people's problems.
Yeah.
It's keyboard
Yeah.
warriors.
It
and
is.
Sweat
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same as Marcus. I don't care, like, one bit. And he and his family are definitely more
My
words of
family
affirmation.
is like, they want to go on a shooting spree every time. Like, let's get them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not going to, like...
It
I
was
grew up in
like
an environment
talking them
where
down from the
we always
ledge.
talk smack back to each other anyway.
Right.
So if I read something that's good, I'm like, that's good, even
Yeah.
if it's hardcore.
Yeah.
I always look at it like that. And I always boil it down to the person
Yeah.
who's trying to say it, and then if it's real big to you, you come try to say it in front of me.
Right. Yep.
If you're that bad about
Say
it.
it
to
If
my
you're
face.
so upset about it, then come find me and tell me about it. Otherwise, that's
And
a
they
blip in the
never
air,
will.
man.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I
is.
mean?
It really is. It's
The
nothing.
same people that have enough hours in a day to comment and be derogatory are not the people that are
Yeah.
ever going to stand up for anything
Yeah.
to say it to your face.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've definitely, it's been a big learning curve, but yeah, being in this position, you do realize there's a lot of negativity out there, but again, you have to focus and turn it into
Haters going to hate. That's it.
turn it into a positive.
They do exist down here.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
In the game, you gotta have to have the antagonist. We have people in the SEAL teams, and I'll have people run across like, yeah, you know this team guy? He's just an ass. I'm like, yeah, I'm magnificent. Well, he's just a mean guy.
Yeah.
But he's
Yep.
ours.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If he doesn't have anybody to be mean at, he's got to be mean at me. Mm-hmm. So I understand that style.
Yeah.
And then you can understand when people who just talk smack just because they can.
Right.
They're often, there's no consequences. Every time you tap into that phone, it's like tapping into a video game.
Yeah.
You can pull yourself out of it.
Gosh.
Exactly.
Right? And in reality, social media should probably be erased at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Because people hold on and begrudge and get upset about stuff that was written 2
yeah.
or 3 weeks ago.
Stew on it.
And that person could be dead.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the social media. It's recycles, right? Because we socially we push past something. We don't dwell on something.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can harbor on it, and the people who do that, that's their thing.
Yeah.
But how you know you're having a great time is you're not around them. Mm-hmm. But you know
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
so anything can consume you if you let it. It's just,
Yeah.
but don't.
Or if you just all you're doing is paying attention to the negative. Like, look at all the positive things on social media, and that's the thing. Like, I love getting on there and seeing what you guys are doing, what like Half Base Plays, Tribe Skates, like all these veteran-owned companies.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most amazing thing that I've seen since I got out is all these veteran-owned companies, especially a lot of them obviously are team guys because of where we came from, but they start these companies and what they're doing, the amount that they give
They're
back.
giving back.
Like
all the
they're all meant to be serving others.
Yeah.
Like, and
the
that's
service never ends. It just
It
changes.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
what we've
you're
learned.
a lifelong servant.
And you'll see that the more that comes around and that goodness shines out, that those people who are always upset, the more insignificant
Yep.
they become, the more they'll kind of complain until
Yeah.
Yeah.
push them around. You have to learn. It's just a discipline thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're saying one thing, it's because they're from one area.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Yep.
are complimental, so there's no sarcasm over the net. Like I say
It's
stuff,
lost.
I type some stuff sometimes trying to be joking around and be like, well, he's just or a
Oh
movie
my
quote.
gosh.
I gotta throw a movie quote that's perfect for the situation, and people just lose their mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
Get
my
upset. I'm like,
gosh.
I thought that was funny. You didn't think that was funny, man? And that's
You guys do have a very specific sense
right.
of humor.
And if you forget that, then
Yeah.
it's easy to get upset at everything around you. But in reality, we're the ones that doesn't bother.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Our armor is too thick
Yeah.
for that.
Addie was like 3 years old, and Marcus posted something on Facebook, like basically an open letter to her future boyfriend.
Oh,
And it was this really long thing about like, you're gonna have to lasso a tornado, and like you're gonna have to prove yourself by all of these unrealistic things. And it went so viral, but people took it literal.
Oh,
it was on BBC, and they were like, "This Texan thinks that he can find somebody."
Me and Marcus were out last one
Oh my gosh.
tornadoes this morning.
Got 2 out the back.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are they kidding?" And then they wanted him to come on the news and like defend his position on it. And I'm like, it was a joke. She's 3.
This
Well, I don't
is
have
the world
to
we
defend
live in.
against them. It's for the boyfriend. Had nothing to do with anybody else but that dude.
Right.
It's
Like,
so
yeah.
funny because
I
there's
think a
sense
10-minute
It
of
doesn't even
humor.
exist right now.
10-minute breath holds reasonable.
Well,
Yeah.
come on. Y'all are supposed to be the
People just
Stronger,
don't
better, better,
understand
faster, right?
their sense of humor at all.
Yeah. It's hard.
Oh my
Guess
gosh.
what? We don't care.
Yeah.
Because when they come back at us, I think that's the witty banter. You know?
Oh, I love it.
That's
Yeah.
all you got. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurt.
You got to think of how many of the hours these guys spend just like complete BSing, making up their own stories.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We have
that's-
nothing else to do besides sit there and do that.
Yeah.
That's how good I can get it.
Yeah.
Cutting you down.
Yeah.
They don't show that on the
That's
movies,
like-
though. They show you guys in
No,
action.
right, yeah.
Well,
They don't show you guys
That's like
like
60% of the
stuck in a
deployment.
plane for 7 hours doing
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
I did think it was fun in Lone Survivor how they did implement, like when Shane Patton was doing the Napoleon Dynamite dance.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
That's the
it
best part
kind of
behind the
showed
scenes
like
Yes.
a little bit of their humor.
That's the shenanigans.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't even remember that part because they remember, it was obviously about something totally
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But it's like a little glimpse that they
Yeah.
are silly. These guys do have a very silly
Oh, we're
side.
goofballs for sure.
Yeah.
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 Have to be.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much for
Oh,
coming
thank
on
you.
and
Oh,
sharing
we
your
appreciate
story.
it.
And we can't wait to get your book. And I will go down the wormhole and just look at all of it because it's traumatic for everybody.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a case study for years to come for a lot of
yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to people having the book in their hands because, even in a long format like this, it's impossible to share every unique thing that happened. And the book is going to be over 500 pages.
Oh my gosh.
But
It's
we
good,
couldn't
though.
really shorten it. It is good.
Yeah.
It is good,
Yeah.
and it's definitely going to be a really good lens for people to view the totality of the situation from where it started to what happened to us on both ends, to him, to myself, to the children, to the people that stood beside us, and what happened thereafter. So, yeah, we're really thankful for you guys.
Yeah.
How can people order the book?
The book is available for pre-order currently at EddieGallagherBook.com, or you can go to Eddie's website at theeddiegallagher.com, and there's links to it there. And pretty much anything that we're involved in is linked on his site as well, so people
Isn't
can
it
check
on
that out.
Amazon too?
Yeah.
It is
it's also
on Amazon.
That's how I ordered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it is available for pre-order right now
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Amazon as well. So yeah.
Well, good. We'll get it out there. Shed some light on it.
Thank
Shed some light on the
you.
people who are abusing their spot.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
it'll
brother.
all come out
Yeah.
too. There's going to be a lot of names in the book, and just we try
only
to hold
names
people
I-
accountable.
Made sure that was a big thing writing the book was I wanted to be very respectful to the community and because I still, even after everything happened, my
Yeah, we love
heart
the
still
community.
belongs to the community, and I left out names. I mean, I've used little code names, but for people that were bad actors and that need to be held accountable, their names are in
Sure.
there.
Yeah. And we did try to hold them accountable through.
Because the institution itself, no, but people in there that abuse, that's
Yeah.
the thing. You can, because
Right. Yeah. We filed different, IG investigations and things afterwards in regard to NCAS and the behavior, and then also just within how it was handled. And it was pretty much like, yep, we're good here.
Yeah,
So
the
we're like,
Navy's like, nothing
and
was done wrong.
no, we're not
Right.
taking that for an answer. So yeah, we're still currently kind
well, then
of
how
in-
did that happen?
What's
Yeah.
that?
Like if
If
they
nothing was
said-
done wrong
yeah,
on their
they
side,
said-
then how did this whole thing happen?
That's
Yeah.
that's the funny thing is we got the response back like we looked into it, nothing was done wrong, move on, and you're like, okay, well then we got so
There
now we're in a
is-
lawsuit with them. So
Yeah, we're in a lawsuit with the United States Navy and the New York Times reporter who did most of the smearing, that they gave him all of his privacy protected information. But I do think years to come after this, there will be consequences that are leveled just to recreate the equilibrium that was lost during that time that we were victims of. But again, if it's all for writing the path and the course so that no one else has to go through this again, then it's all worth it.
That's a big deal to bear false witness against somebody.
Very big deal with zero accountability. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, and it'll be a big deal, I guess, when it comes out with the book.
Oh my gosh.
Well, welcome back, man.
Oh, I appreciate it.
One hell of a ride. You earned it. Relax now. Enjoy this. And what you're building. And,
absolutely.
Being out here is amazing.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, that could have very easily twisted and went the wrong way. You twisted and pushed it forward. So keep it that.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Sweet. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. Let us know what you think. If you loved the episode, let us know by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave some comments in YouTube. Come on. We love to hear those comments. Maybe the guys will come back and respond to your questions. Hey, we can't thank you guys enough for coming back every Wednesday to listen to these episodes. Make sure, if you haven't already, follow us on social media, teamneverquit.com/social. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, anywhere you get your podcasts. We've got some brand new podcast merch, flags, all kind of awesome swag in stock at shop.teamneverquit. Man, thank you guys so much for listening to the episode. Eddie and Andrea, thank you guys again. We'll see you next week.